One of the recurring critiques or reproaches that I've had in my life, at least so far, is that I'm too sensitive. And it's hardly ever being said as a compliment. In fact, usually when someone tells you that, it's because something has happened or something has been said and your reaction to the thing is not what they expected it to be. Usually your reaction might be more than what they thought. So they made a joke, they thought you'd laugh, you don't. They made a statement, they thought you'd brush it off, you don't. So in my case, I take things very personally. And I can say that now because it's taken me a long time to actually accept that this is the case. I always thought that it was a bad thing, the way it was being said, because it was, like I said, hardly ever said as a compliment. Someone wouldn't say, "Oh my goodness, you're so sensitive. I really appreciate how sensitive you are." Usually it's, "Man, just drop it. Like, why are you so sensitive?" It's usually as a question, as "Why are you so sensitive?" As if you're a problem, as if I am a problem. And so for a very long time, I thought it was. I thought being sensitive was a bad thing. And I think what I did was that I suppressed my sensitivity. But as you know, if you're one of those people, you really can't suppress your sensitivity. You can run away from it. You can pretend that you aren't feeling the things that you're feeling or you're not aware of what you're aware of. But it's there. And so what happens is because that reaction keeps coming from people, the way that we, sensitive people, adapt is that we shut down. And I did that for a while. I shut down, I suppressed what I was thinking, I suppressed my own opinions, my own thoughts. I did not say what I was really feeling because whenever I would say it, I'll be met with, "It's no big deal. Why are you blowing this out of proportion?" When I look back now, I think what I lacked at the time was the ability to actually understand what the issue was or get a big picture of the situation, like a better understanding of why am I feeling the way I'm feeling. Am I lacking indeed in the ability to have a sense of humor, to be a member of community, to just, take a joke? I think everybody at some level should be able to deal with that. You should be able to make a joke of yourself, not to the point where it becomes self-deprecating, but if you can't laugh at yourself, there is a problem. So yes, there is such a thing as being too sensitive. There's such a thing as being the party, I don't want to say the word. There's such a thing as someone who, whenever they show up, people tense up because they're just going to be very serious. And I'm one of those people. When I show up, I tend to be very serious. What I found out recently, though, and what I want to share with you if you're like me, is that owning that sensitivity and accepting who you are and looking at how that has made you who you are and what you can do for people can give you a very different perspective of how to approach this idea of being sensitive. In my case, I am a very serious person. What this means is that when someone uses a word, I tend to want to make sure that they're using the word in a way that I understand. So, granted, it can be very exhausting to be in a relationship with me of any kind, which is the reason why I think I've said a couple of times, I don't have many friends. But a side note to that is because I tend to be very precise with the words that I use and the way that I communicate, I come off as arrogant, as overconfident, as Cameroonians would say, show. But for me, it's because I want to use the word that communicates exactly what I'm thinking. And so I try to find the exact word. And if someone uses a word that I understand in a different sense, I want to find out that they know what the word means and if that's what they are saying. Because, of course, I understand that people use different words in different contexts. So that's a side note there. Because of my seriousness with the language, I tend to come off as arrogant. I did not understand this for many years. I didn't understand why people didn't really want to talk with me, or people would use certain, not necessarily derogatory terms, but more like they would make comments that were fun, but I'm sensitive, so I'll be like, why are they saying these things to me? But I've learned over time that when you show up as yourself, when you show up as who you are and you own up who you are, people can easily get threatened. I am not saying that you come into a room and take over the room and other people should go and figure their lives out because you know who you are. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying here is that when you're a sensitive person and you're able to acknowledge this part of you that is sensitive, that pays attention to the details, that is serious, and that is wanting more preciseness in their life, people tend to not be very comfortable with that because sometimes, maybe most times, people are not honest with who they are. At some level, they might not be living the lives that they would like to live. So seeing somebody who is able to exhibit the signs that they would want to have in their lives can make them uncomfortable. And a general reaction to that discomfort is that they will want to throw you off. They will want to make a mockery. They will want to pull you down to their level. And so when you refuse to be pulled down to their level, they lash out. They make comments to bring you down. And the mistake that I made, that sensitive people make, is that we get to their level. We start arguing. We start over-explaining ourselves. Or, most especially, we shut down. We suppress ourselves. We don't acknowledge that the things that we are feeling could be real. That maybe this person doesn't really like us and they're making these snide comments to destroy our sense of self-esteem. That maybe this family member that we actually respect doesn't respect us as much and we need to take a step back. So, overall, what I'm saying here is that when you're able to acknowledge who you are, at least at that point, then you can get to decide who you want to be. In my case, coming to terms with the fact that I was a sensitive and serious person meant that I had to look at this as what I came with and what I was going to do with it next. Because the advantage of actually being sensitive, which most people don't talk about, is that you're very discerning. Sensitive people get to see the world in the way that most people don't because we pay attention. We notice things that people would not notice. And this gives us an edge. One of the things that we notice, for example, that I think is very important when you're a sensitive person is inconsistencies. What this means is that when someone says something and then changes it and then modifies it, also known as a lie, you're able to catch on it because you're sensitive and you pay attention. And what usually happens is that when you catch them and other people haven't caught them on and you call them out, you become the bad guy because they find another way to make it so that, no, that's not what I said, also known as gaslighting. So a sensitive person can very easily be the one that actually helps other people notice something that is broken. The problem now is that the sensitive person usually lacks the ability to express themselves in a way that makes sense to the people who are less sensitive than them to the inconsistencies that they are observing. What this means is that even when you see the world the way it is, even when you're able to acknowledge a situation as uncomfortable for yourself or for people, you may lack the ability to express that discomfort. That is the thing that I've worked on for the past decade, and the thing that I will continue to work on, which is being able to acknowledge what the situation really is and communicate that to people who are watching who may not be able to notice it. The advantage that I've had really is that leaning into my sensitivity, leaning into my seriousness has allowed me to build friendships that have a lot more depth. What this means as well is that I have lost a lot of friends along the way because my seriousness will not allow me to have friendships where I can't really connect with these people. I can't be honest, and people who are inconsistent easily tend to rub me off the wrong way. So what happens is the friendship naturally dies out because we're not able to maintain what my requirements are in a relationship, which I might also say sensitive people usually have a hard time building relationships because people will not put in as much effort as they would. Am I saying that the people who are not as sensitive won't put as much effort? No. What I'm saying here is that when you're a sensitive person, you tend to notice things. You remember things. In my case, I forget birthdays, but I remember colors. I remember statements. I remember stories. I remember pieces of information that actually allow me to connect with the person I'm talking with. And what I also found out is that this disadvantage of being sensitive is that it demands a lot of energy from me. So my sensitivity doesn't mean that I'm able to turn it on and turn it off whenever I want. I am just regularly on a day-to-day basis sensitive. So what this means is that when I pour all this energy in people and it doesn't get reciprocated, it depletes. What I've learned a lot more recently is that because I was relying on my human capacity and not on the Holy Spirit to be able to maintain these relationships, I was running on empty, generally speaking. But if you're watching this, maybe you find yourself in a place where you've accepted how sensitive you are. Maybe you haven't. So maybe this video will be an opportunity for you to realize that it's not necessarily a bad thing like people said. On the contrary, it can be a strength. It can be an ability that once developed can allow you to see the world the way it is and chart a path forward of where you want to go with this newfound power. What are some things that you can actually do? How can you live from someone who gets easily triggered by a truth? Somebody can tell you something that is true that you may not want to hear, to be the kind of person who says, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to work on it. The first thing is acceptance. Accepting where you are. Accepting that this is who you are. And I think that we are all born sensitive at some level. And over time, we can either get more sensitive or less sensitive. I'm sure there are studies and research that will show the degree of sensitivity and how that affects whether it's the DNA, nature, nurture. But in our case, it doesn't really matter. If you're a sensitive person, you know you're a sensitive person. If you have someone around who is sensitive, you know that they are sensitive. So how do you then leverage this? Knowing yourself, I think, is the first stage. Acceptance of who you are, knowing yourself. If you're a sensitive person, accept it. I am sensitive. The word itself is neutral, but there's a negative connotation attached to it, which is that when somebody asks you, why are you so sensitive? You tend to want to defend. Oh, I am not. But you are. So maybe the question isn't why you are. The question should be, what is causing, what in that situation is causing you to feel these feelings? And what are those feelings? Are you frustrated? Are you worried? Are you sad? Are you upset? Are you angry? There's so many different kinds of feelings, and I think we focus on just a few, for example, anger and joy, but there's a whole swathe of feelings. The feelings themselves are not the problem. It's the process of identifying those feelings and then understanding where they're coming from and addressing them in a way that allows you to communicate what is making you feel sensitive. So what I really wanted to do today was just bring that up, because for me, what I've learned, what I'm understanding now is, it's not so much about being sensitive. It's what you do with those feelings. It's where it's coming from, and it's how you deal with them. Because you would find people who would still trigger you, people who would still say things that can get you upset. But if you lean into those feelings, what you do is you lose the capacity and the opportunity to actually see the problem that is at hand. Maybe someone is truly a liar. So instead of getting angry, you can get them to realize that you know what's going on. And maybe they will tell you the truth and realize that they can't just lie around you. Maybe you're in a relationship with somebody who is gaslighting you. And then you get to decide, am I going to walk off this relationship? Or am I going to make them understand that I know what they're doing and that they can either choose to address my concerns, or you're going to adopt and adapt to the new boundaries. Either way, your sensitivity provides you with an opportunity to improve your weaknesses. Because if someone says, yeah, you promised to make YouTube videos, you didn't make those videos, you're a lazy person. That hasn't been said. And hopefully somebody doesn't tell you that. But I can hear someone telling me that because I did say I was going to make YouTube videos and I didn't. Previously, that would piss me off. I would say, well, you haven't tried, you're not a YouTuber, you don't understand. But over time, what happens is, as you lean into understanding your sensitivity, you realize that that is true. It is a fact. You don't have to have any additional feelings to facts. If you haven't made videos and you made a promise, what you can do then is decide, am I going to make a new video, or am I going to sit here trying to justify why I haven't made a video? Or why am I not making a video? Is something going on that I need to address that is stopping me from doing that? Or am I, like the person said, just lazy? Bottom line is, whatever triggers those feelings, whatever makes people think that you're too sensitive, whatever gets you into a place where you overthink things, don't just lean into the feelings and indulge in them. Pause, acknowledge, and make use of those feelings. Because beyond that, it's just a world of opportunities. In my case, being able to be sensitive to things people say, to the Holy Spirit, to the world around me, to my own thoughts and feelings, to my own patterns of behavior, being able to watch myself and realize I'm not very consistent with the things that I say and the things that I do. I'm not very consistent with my goals. Or I said I was going to do this thing 3 months ago and I haven't. Or why do I keep saying this same statement over and over? Instead of pointing your sensitivity outward to the world, when you acknowledge that power, you can point it inside. And then you can become a lot more sensitive to what is in you from God. And that can be the beginning of a wonderful journey where not only do you no longer feel this feedback from people telling you, oh, why are you so sensitive? Can't you just take a joke? Is you look at yourself, it's like, why do I laugh at myself so much? Why do I not speak to myself with kindness? Why do I not go after my goals? Why do I keep repeating the past? Why do I keep saying these things that are not helpful to me? Why do I keep going back to these old patterns of behavior that I don't want? Your being sensitive is a gift, and you can use it to improve your life in ways that you never thought were possible. But first, you have to accept it, you have to know it, you have to find a way to express it in a healthy, sustainable manner. It's not an easy journey, but it's very possible, because there was a time when I couldn't have this conversation like this, and now I can. And if I can do it, I'm very sure you can do it too. So good luck, my friend. God loves you.